Spinning out with my head in the clouds, going down in the shadow of doubt. I don't see any way out.
Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. It's morning here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been working on this song that I just posted here on Patreon, What You Believe, and had some lovely comments. And I thought it might be nice to take a look at some of the things, some of the comments that were made, in particular how the guitars were recorded and the snare drum. I'm always amazed at recording. I've been recording since I was a young teenager, when I first had my first Wallen sack and discovered Sound on Sound. And then with the release of Paul McCartney, his first album, I was just fascinated that he had done all the parts and himself, with the exception of Linda, his wife, singing some vocals with him. But just that concept of somebody being able to build tracks by themselves, and I've been fascinated with it all my life. And in this day and age with digital recording, you just have so many options and wonderful tools to work with and to inspire you to make great recordings, or good recordings, or strive for the best you can make. Let's put it that way. Anyway, this song, sometimes they're harder than others. This one I struggled with a little bit, and I realized when I was trying to mix it, I just couldn't get the vocal to sit where I wanted it to be in the track. So I redid the vocal yesterday using this mic, which is an SM7B Shure mic, and it's really a great little mic. I a lot of times use, I don't know if you can see these in the picture, this Warm WA47, which is a knockoff of the Neumann UA47 or U47. I don't know what they call it, or maybe it's UA47. It does a great job, but it just had kind of a brittly sound for this song, and this mic just sounded so much warmer. So I put a new vocal on. I'll show you that in a sec, but I'll run through the guitar and the guitar amp that I used and the guitar that I used and how I recorded the snare drum. Let's get at it. Okay, here we are in my studio. I've got two monitors here. I've got the arrangement window here. This is Cubase 11 Pro, by the way, which I love. And this over here is like the mixing window, where I can, control the level of each track. I can also open it up here and have the mixer down here below the arrangement, which comes in handy sometimes, but I like to be able to see all the tracks. All these orange tracks here, hopefully you can see all these here, these are the drum tracks. Let me just play a little bit of the track and I'll show you the drums for a second here. I'm going to solo out the drums. Basic kick and snare going on. Here's the hat with it. A little bit of shaker. Okay. So I had a comment about the snare drum sound, which I'm kind of proud of in this. I do kind of a different approach to drumming. Instead of using just drum programming, I actually play the drums. But what I'll do is when I'm recording a track, I'll start with a drum loop using this program called Addictive Drums 2. And what it does is you can just get a kick and a snare and a hi-hat and give yourself a basic loop up to play, to record your like piano, guitars, bass. And then I go back and I play drums to that and pull out the program drums to make it feel more real. And for simple grooves, I'm pretty decent at coming up with the right parts. So diving in a little deeper, I read, and I've seen videos of Jeff Lynne. I'm a great admirer of Jeff Lynne, the way he records his tracks with Tom Petty and George Harrison, and of course the famous Beatle reunion that he did later in 96 or so, 95, 96, with Real Love and Free as a Bird. And I've seen videos of Jeff, the way he records drums. He does a lot of his own drumming sometimes, and he'll record each drum separately. What I found in the last few years is a great method is I'll keep the kick drum that I recorded on the original loop track, because it's one part I'm a little sloppy as a drummer, is being right on with the kick drum. So I'll keep the kick drum, but I'll record the snare and the toms alone over that. And when I get a sound I like and a groove I like, I'll go in and I'll actually move the drums around a little bit if I'm a little off time, but it's pretty close for the most part. But today what I wanted to just is to show you how I got the snare drum sound. So here is, I'm going to undo these and I'm just going to zone in on just the snare drum. So this is the snare drum by itself, with the little toms. Okay, that's the snare sound that ended up in the final mix. But what I do is a lot of times, if I don't care for the snare drum, I can actually go in and change it. So what I do is I have this thing called Addictive Trigger. I'm going to open it up over here. And here is the original snare. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to take out, this is just the original snare. Which is not a bad sound in itself, but I thought it needed to be a little higher and snappier. So what you can do is you can go in here and you can pick out a new snare, and it'll play, it will trigger to the exact parts that you played live. So you can change. So now I'm using a Ludwig, some sort of Acrolite 1968 snare. So here's that sound by itself. I'm going to So that's the sampled snare, and here's the original snare, which is a little lower, but I like to add them both together. That's the two combined. Pretty cool. So I'm always a little bit put at ease when I record drum tracks. I always try to tune them and make them sound the best I can, but I know I've always got this to fall back on if I want a better sounding snare in the final mix. And that's pretty much it. That's how we get a better snare sound. Fun with recording. Okay, let's take a look at the guitar parts. The solo was recorded with my SG, which is right here. Hello SG. This is a, what is it? About a 2013 that I bought brand new, sight unseen. Actually, I take that back. Man, it's about 2013. I bought it at Guitar Center one day. I was not planning on buying out a guitar, and I went in and picked it up off the wall because I'd been kind of wanting. I had an SG Standard with P90s that I really like a lot too, but I wanted one with what do you call it? Humbuckers. So I picked this one up off the wall and just fell in love with it immediately. So I walked out with it after paying for it, of course. Anyway, this has really become my main guitar live and recording. I also favor a 335 that I have, a Duesenberg, Dr. Mojo. I've got too many guitars probably, but I love them all. They all say something different to me, but I used the SG for this one, and here's the part that I recorded. Obviously, there was a guitar harmony there as well, so it was two parts most for half the solo. And what I use live amps and I use what they call model amps. I go both ways, but the Universal Audio. Let me show you that real quick. This is how I get in and out of the computer to record parts, either vocally or guitars. And you can see I've got a guitar cord plugged right in the front. And I am using this amp, which I've seemed to be favoring a lot lately. Let me turn this off. This is an Engel. I think that's how you pronounce them. It's kind of a rock amp, but and it can get pretty extreme in a lot of ways. This is basically the initial setting. There's really nothing special about this, but I find a lot of times I just bring this up and it's ready to go. And then it's got an effects rack where you can add in delay and stuff like that. But here, let me give you a taste of what it sounds like. Okay, here's the guitar. And then I played something like this. Something like that. And for anybody that's interested, I'm monitoring right now through a Yamaha SM5. I think that's what they call them. I don't know what they call these. They're pretty standard monitors. They're powered monitors. I tend to use headphones a lot. For years I've used the Sony V6. They're very similar to the 7506, which is kind of like the standard generic brand on Sony these days, but these I've always found them to be really accurate for my reference point. So I do a lot of my recording and mixing under headphones, and I check under speakers. The real test is, getting in your car or listening to my my little AirPods Pros that made by Apple. Those are like the real point where I know I've got a mix right or wrong. But anyway. And as always, if you've seen my studio before, probably, I use these Warm Audio preamps, WA12, and I use this Warm WA, what do they call these? WA2A, which is a knockoff of the UAD version. But really good sounding stuff. And like I said, it goes through my Apollo, and I have a what do you call it? A Focusrite expander, which gives me 8 more channels. I think it's called the Octapre. So I got 10 channels input total to get so I can record drums, or I can even record a modest live band. And for keyboards, my trusty Michael McDonald Motif 8 that was used on the road quite a bit when we were touring a lot more. Mike's on the road with the Doobie Brothers these days, so we're kind of in a little bit of sabbatical right now. Hopefully we'll be back out before too long. And that's basically it. Anything else I can show you in my studio? Let's take a look over here. If I do live recording for my amp at home right now, I've got my Deluxe And I've got a Marshall 1960 cabinet that I used a lot. These are the drums that I use over here. Not all of them, but most of them. And pedal board, kind of a condensed pedal board that I have right now. My new favorite pedal right now is this Soldano Super Lead Overdrive. Man, that thing is great. Second in line is this Bogner Lagrange, which I love. A little bit of delay from a Wampler. Compressor, I use this Wampler Ego. This is a modest setup. And I've got a tremolo here made by Wampler. That's about it for there. A few guitars over here. The bass on this track was this Fender Mustang bass that I just picked up a few months ago. Really love it. It's kind of a small scale bass, which is really fun. And then there's my Hofner bass. There's a Firebird I just picked up a few months ago as well, made by Epiphone, which is really a nice guitar, I have to say. SG, Gretsch. Here's my Duesenberg. Here's my Fender Jazz Squier bass that I've had since 1990, which is a really great bass. Made in Japan. My Gibson Les Paul, about a 2005. And then my Casino Elitist, American-made Casino, which really is nice, made by Epiphone. And then I've got my Takamine here, acoustic. I think it's an NP25, which I've also had since about 1989. Really has aged well. This is a, what do you call it? See if I can get to this without getting my hands in the way. But this is a Joe Pass Epiphone jazz guitar, which I picked up in a pawn shop on the road. Really nice. Here's my B25 or my J45 Gibson, and I've got a what do you call it? Bags pickup in it, which really sounds natural for live. Here's my 1967 Epiphone Casino, if you can see that. I picked this up after the earthquake in Chatsworth, California, back in 1994, I believe it was. Here's my 335, my Fender Telly, my Fender 12-string. This is kind of a cool guitar. This was given to me as a wedding present by my good friend. My fingers are getting in the way. Sorry, folks. Given to me by my friend Chaz for my wedding present back in 1991. Another 12-string, a newer Gretsch. I don't know the model number, but it really sounds good. Here's my Fender Strat, 1993, which is really a great guitar, American-made. This is just a Century, Epiphone Century model. Here's my red Strat, kind of a Frankenstein guitar, but fun guitar. And here's my Dr. Mojo. And just some of my guitars. I think I've got a few more stashed away somewhere. And here's another view of my studio. I just love this room. It's very inspiring. It's my my safe place. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for coming and taking a look, and I hope you enjoyed some of the insight to how these parts were recorded on the song. I'm going to post the latest mix of it, which I think is much better than the one I had posted previously. I think this is the last song for this particular album project, and I'm going to be putting together picking out the best 12 to 14 songs and putting them together and sequencing them to an album, which I hope to have out in a month, maybe sooner. All right. Thanks again, guys. Love you all. Peace. Be safe. Bye-bye.